Hello and welcome to Kicker Radio, and for those watching on Rogers Community Television, I'm Stephen Miller.
And I'm Amy Cleary.
Coming up on today's show, Andrew Waterman has a story on how restaurants have been facing scrutiny from the Canada Revenue Agency now that technology allows them to better track what servers are making in tips and what they should be paying in taxes.
We also have Jason Shepard's exclusive interview with the survivor of a home invasion that resulted in her roommate being sent to hospital.
Throughout the show, we'll be hearing music from Search Party, and they are launching their new self-titled EP this Friday at the Rock House. Here's Michael Moore with the news.
Kicker's Jason Shepard spoke with a St. John's resident whose home was targeted by a knife-wielding individual. She discusses the impact the attack has had on her.
A stabbing wasn't enough. There had to be so much more violence to it, and the whole trauma definitely is going to be there for a while. That's the most difficult thing to deal with. I don't think there's any amount of medication that can help you with that. You got to find the answers in your life, and that's where people don't realize that they're so deeply disconnected.
Violent assaults are unfortunately common in St. John's, and usually when one occurs, we hear numerous reports on the individual committing the acts. But it's not always the case that we hear from the other side. Kicker's Jason Shepard spoke with a woman whose roommate was targeted and attacked in a life-threatening incident earlier this year.
Imagine hearing a knock on your door very early one winter morning, and you wonder who it is. A friend goes to answer. Upon opening, before anybody realizes what is going on, an outstretched arm holding a knife lunges forward. This incident occurred in St. John's early in February. The victim was treated, released, and now living out of the province. The victim's roommate, however, remained behind. She spoke to me about what living in fear is like since the attack. To protect her identity, we will call her Claudia, and she describes how this incident has affected her.
Very traumatic. I mean, having so much violence in your own home after your friend is already hit is unreal, right? You don't ever expect it. A stabbing wasn't enough. There had to be so much more violence to it, and the whole trauma definitely is going to be there for a while, right? Now, if I'm by myself in the house in the middle of the night and I hear the cats knocking something over, automatically my brain goes to, oh, there's someone at your door and, they're going to bust in, right?
Since this violent incident nearly a month ago, Claudia explained to me how she has been coping.
Having people around at all times, which is not healthy. So, just trying to get back to my life and focusing on myself. That in itself is stressful because of the fact that now I have to live alone. It brings on a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. And some days you just don't want to think about any of it, right? So you'll sleep all day and you'll be out all night trying not to think about it, and then go to bed and all you can do is think about it because you're not supposed to think about it. Yeah. And it's a vicious circle. There's no interrupting it unless you consciously take action to stop your thoughts and just repeat over and over that you're okay, or that, something calming. Try to analyze how you're feeling at the moment. Stop yourself, take a deep breath, and just realize what's wrong and what you can fix right now and what you can't fix. Having the ability to survive and to take care of yourself and your animals and whatever, and always try to keep in mind helping other people and doing what's right, staying morally correct in your choices. And you have to stay true to yourself at the end of the day. So that's definitely something that is difficult when you deal with so much anxiety. Having so much violence in your home is a different story. It's just circumstances, right? So the anxiety linked to that's definitely going to go away at some point when I manage to make myself feel safe at home again.
Karen Moore is a counselor at the College of the North Atlantic in St. John's. I asked her to explain how trauma can affect people in different ways.
Well, trauma can affect people, everybody differently. If I was attacked or you were attacked or witnessed something, it might affect me differently than you. And the reason why it affects different people different ways, we all bring our own individual, upbringings, personalities, genetics, everything to the situation. The thing I would recommend is mostly try to get as much support as you can after the trauma happens. And so support from friends, support from families, support from significant others, support from counselors, occurs, or because the worst thing oftentimes that when trauma happens that we can do, and not most times unintentionally, is just try to deal with it by ourselves, by not processing it, by not talking about it. It can build up and it can lead to, further trauma. Like if it lasts for a long period of times and has a certain number of symptoms, eventually it could lead to post-traumatic stress disorder. But oftentimes when an event happens, such as an attack, like you might be scared of, being by yourself. I can see like walking at night, right? Maybe individuals would look like your attacker, things like that can happen, and oftentimes it can spread to other situations, which, down the road can lead to you having a hard time coping in your daily life, really, because of things that would be recommended for that, like I said, is not avoiding stuff, because the more you avoid things, like with any type of trauma and an anxiety and things that kind of happen from it, the worse it's going to get.
Claudia tells me she's trying to get through her days as best she can, with support helping her.
That's the most difficult thing to deal with. I don't think there's any amount of medication that can help you with that. You gotta find the answers in your life. And that's where people don't realize that they're so deeply disconnected. This is why I'm fortunate and I'm able to make it through on a daily basis. I have people who actually care. So I do feel like my input has some value. If I didn't have that, I don't think I'd have much of anything.
For Kicker Radio, this is Jason Shepard.
The opioid crisis in Newfoundland and Labrador isn't going away. Kicker's Rebecca Blake spoke to two organizations, SHOP and SWAP, about the services and stigma of drug users getting help.
Newfoundland is known for many things: its beautiful landscape, wicked winds, and a growing opioid crisis. Opioids are not new to Canada. British Columbia has been suffering an opioid crisis for the past 6 years, and the future doesn't seem any brighter. It's no wonder that the BC government established safe injection sites, zones where intravenous drug users can pick up gear and be monitored by healthcare professionals while taking their drugs. Safe injection sites are slowly moving east. There are 3 in Montreal and 0 in Atlantic Canada. In November, the provincial government here proposed to track prescription drugs in order to monitor drugs in circulation. But they did not mention safe injection sites. Why is that? One word: stigma. Jared Yetman, the executive director of SWAP, says that safer injection sites are about harm reduction and not encouraging drug use.
Actually, SWAP stands for the Safe Works Access Program. It's a provincially, it's a harm reduction program for intravenous drug users that is funded by the Provincial Department of Health and Social Services. And the goal behind the harm reduction program is to decrease the spread of HIV and hepatitis C.
SWAP is a program ran by the AIDS Committee of Newfoundland and Labrador. It's all about harm reduction. And guess what? They come to you. That's right. SWAP uses a mobile approach to supply drug users with clean needles. Yetman says this is because many people don't have access to them.
So basically, both of these offices have the outreach vans.
I see.
And these outreach vans go out in the evening and provide needles to people who cannot otherwise get access to them, either because they're homeless or because they're afraid to come to a set site. And basically, all people have to do is call our mobile unit, and our mobile unit will deliver the supplies to wherever they're at.
SWAP isn't the only organization in town that wants to make drugs safer. SHOP is ran by St. John's Status of Women Council, and it's focused on providing resources to sex workers, including safe drug equipment. Heather Jarvis, the program coordinator of SHOP, says,
We want to make sure there are services available to everybody, especially groups of people who are often marginalized, and drug users are definitely a highly marginalized group of people.
Yetman says that education is the best way to break the chain of ignorance.
I think, basically what we really need to start doing is educating the public, starting in school. We do not have a good mental health strategy in the province, and we do not have an addiction strategy in the province. So these are a number of things that all have to happen at the same time if we're going to make an impact on helping and assisting people into rehabilitation.
I'm Rebecca Blake for Kicker News.
Caitlin Osmond's Olympic performance has the province buzzing. Kicker's Arthur Green traveled to Marystown to see what locals were saying about their hometown hero.
Caitlin Osman's team gold and individual bronze medal win at the Olympics in South Korea has captured the hearts of Canadian fans, especially in Marystown, Newfoundland and surrounding areas. Everywhere you go, people are chatting about the huge win. Nicole Gray says Osman has inspired young people in the area to follow their dreams.
It's good knowing that someone from around here would be so good in the Olympics, because you'd never think that somebody from your hometown would actually make it there.
Her individual bronze medal win was Team Canada's 27th medal of the 2018 Olympics. A proud accomplishment for Osman. Her Black Swan routine crowned her the 6th Canadian woman in history to win an individual figure skating medal at the Olympics. Osman doesn't live in Marystown anymore, but she still has family here. Juanita Moulton says Osman is a great role model.
That's the type of people that we need in our young people today, to show them that anything is possible if you work hard and you love it enough.
The road doesn't end here for Osman. She's already back training in Edmonton for the World Figure Skating Championship in Milan, Italy next month. For Kicker News, I'm Arthur Craig Green.
And that's it with the news for this first half hour. My name is Mike Moore, and back to our hosts.
Thank you, Mike. The Canada Revenue Agency have been looking into restaurants and their employees, sometimes going back several years to make sure they have been paying enough taxes on their tips. Andrew Waterman has the story.
Tipping customs vary across the world. Here in Canada, it's generally considered good form to leave the server at least 15% on top of your bill. In the years before debit cards and point-of-sale systems, it was ordinary for a server to leave work with cash in hand. But this is all changing, and the Canadian Revenue Agency has taken notice.
My name is Gabe Cavallaro. I've been in the food and beverage industry for a good 20 years or so. 3 years ago, I got a letter in the mail from CRA. I think I was one of the first in the wave of high-end server restaurants here to be given that notification from the CRA that we're finding discrepancies in your income. When I first got that message on my phone, I thought it was a fraud. I thought it was one of these Kijiji scams. It's almost like, they deposed me in kind of a weird way, because it wasn't just like, hey, we got a note from your employer saying, with a detailed list of paycheck by paycheck over the last 2 years, saying what you've earned. It wasn't anything like that. Those came out after that wave of interviews that they had with, from what I understand, a variety of people. I think this is an amalgamation of technology coming together with smarter reporting systems for restaurants.
Cavallaro says it's necessary these days for servers to take a more active role in the managing of their money. But there are a few problems standing in the way, which stem from the lack of cash on hand at restaurants. With less money to pay out at the end of the night, businesses find themselves in a rush to get those tips back to the servers before they are required to pay taxes on them, as happens in other countries.
Nancy Brace, Executive Director with the Restaurant Association Newfoundland and Labrador. In Europe, there is no tipping. Service charge is added right into the bill. It then becomes added financial burden, however, on the business owner, because when the gratuity comes in now and it's being paid out directly to the staff, there is no payroll remittance on it for the business, whereas if it was done that way, there would be.
With no standard procedure, a financial gray area seems to hover over an industry that has seen a number of business closures in the past couple of years in St. John's. But Cavallaro tells me, for servers, it's not all that bad.
I do think that most servers still make, even if they report 100% of their income, are still making more than your man on the street kind of jobs, whether it's a girl at a cash register at a coffee shop, barista, whatever, street cleaner, working at the laundromat, so on and so forth. Like even professional income, like dental hygienist, legal assistant, doctor's office, office manager, you name it. Most servers make more than most of those people, even if they were to declare 100% of their income.
Reminding you to tip your server. For Kicker Radio, I'm Andrew Waterman.
So I've already promised you some music from Search Party, but it gives me great pleasure to say that I'm actually in studio with Kicker's own Michael Moore, or Mike as he prefers.
Yes, please.
So tell me, you're the bassist in this band, is that correct?
I am, sir. Yeah, so this thing's been a long time coming, this EP, and yeah, it's been like 3 years since we've formed. So this Look Away, which is the tune that we'll be playing, is probably one of the first we've wrote, and so that's, yeah, it goes back a while.
Would you call it a personal song, or?
No, it's actually we wrote about Pablo Escobar.
Oh, really?
And that was the influence for this tune, and without hitting the nail on the head, we kind of wrote it around old Pablo.
Good old Pablo.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we'll play that now.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Blood on his hands with a heart of cold, chased by shadows of a broken soul. People look away. He's a righteous man, but does he pretend? Lead or silver is only spent. People look away. He's a mountain man and the city grows. Take rejected the devil's hopes. People look away. As he speaks his words like a king of peace, there's a fire burning the city streets. People look away. When there's no way out, no end in sight, no chance of winning a losing fight. In this town of violence that no one sees, there's a sound of silence and no one speaks. When the devil comes your way, would you turn your back? Would you look away? 'Cause people look away. When the devil comes your way, would you turn your back? Would you look away? 'Cause people look away. When the devil comes your way, would you turn your back? Would you look away? 'Cause we looked away.
Welcome back to Kicker. That was Search Party with Look Away. First time hearing that song and really impressed, especially with the fiddle. We'll have some more of that coming up later on in the show. Next, well, with the snow day most of us enjoyed on Tuesday, winter is finally here for the Avalon. A lot of planning goes into preparing for a storm. For most of us, it means picking up a salty snack, but this winter is different for people in the potato chip industry. Kicker's Alex Kennedy tells us why.
The trails at Kens Pond in St. John's are white and slushy. That can only mean one thing. It's finally winter on the Avalon. While some have rejoiced about the lack of snow, others depend on it for business. And it's not just the snowmobile salesman either. It's the people selling you your snack foods. Greg Ennis is a distribution manager with Old Dutch Foods and says snow is a big sales booster for him. He speaks about how others in the industry are feeling the hit as well.
That's one of the things, like, you go around and you talk, not only our company, but the other chip companies out there, and they're all saying the same thing. We need a storm.
This boost in sales can all be traced back to a Newfoundland phenomenon, storm chips. When storms are hyped up, everyone has to get their goodies, and chips are usually at the top of the list. Ennis says he has seen orders double in size on days before a snowstorm.
Sure, you saw last year, and it will go from a regular to have empty racking.
And when the racks are empty, you know people are stocked up. I spoke with people here in the city to get a sense of what they're buying before the big storm. You'll hear from Nick Arnold, Joni Wells, Rebecca Green, and Greg Ennis.
Probably have to be all-dress ruffles.
Down picker.
Doritos.
Original Ridgies with some chip dip is my go-to.
We've still got a bit of winter left, but I don't mind. I'll just sit back with my storm chips and wait for when it's okay to shovel. For Kicker News, I'm Alex Kennedy.
St. Patrick's Day is on the horizon. If you like popular folklore about this holiday, then you probably heard of St. Patrick's wife, Sheila. There is a long-standing legend in Newfoundland that he was married to a woman named Sheila. Kicker's Melissa Wong reports.
I'm in the Avalon Mall, under the Urban Planet sign, looking at lucky green t-shirts on headless mannequins. St. Patrick's Day is close, and Newfoundlanders are getting excited. Sheila's Brush is also coming. Many have heard of her, but not many know who the woman was. Did you know St. Patrick had a wife named Sheila?
Oh, I'm Gene Herzberg. I didn't know St. Patrick had a wife.
What do you know about Sheila's Brush?
It's a snowfall that comes around St. Patrick's Day.
So how did you find out about it?
We moved to Newfoundland 40 years ago, and I guess somebody told us when we moved here.
My name's Michael Normore. My understanding of Sheila's Brush is that usually it's the first storm after St. Patty's Day, and it's the last storm before spring break.
How did you find out about this?
That's something I heard all my life growing up in Newfoundland, you know.
My name's James Ferguson. Sheila's Brush is occurring soon, and it's the last big storm of the year.
How did you hear about it?
Through co-workers when I came here 5 years ago.
Where did you come from?
Hamilton, Ontario.
I'm looking at the falling snow outside the window. The branches have yet to be covered with Sheila's ice. What I'm wondering now is, what's the professional opinion? What's the actual lore itself behind this phenomenon? To answer these questions, I'm going to speak to
Dale Jarvis. I'm a folklorist and I work with the Heritage Foundation.
I went and I spoke to a few Newfoundlanders, and they know a bit about the storms. They know that there's snow or ice storms, and I actually spoke to my mother about this, and she said that Sheila got mad at St. Patrick.
Yeah, I think this is part of the folklore around Sheila and Patrick, is that Patrick is kind of associated with a party holiday, I think, in popular folklore, and that Sheila is kind of his long-suffering wife who has to then deal with all the repercussions of what happens on everyone goes out drinking on St. Patrick's Day.
The day after is when people clean up, so she's actually mad because St. Patrick's Day is when all the parties happen.
I think so, yeah. I think that has become the association. You know, St. Patrick's Day used to be a very religious holiday, but certainly today it's much more of a non-religious holiday, and people celebrate that with drinking. And I think there is this idea, this long-standing idea that, yeah, Sheila's Day is the day where someone has to clean up the mess.
As long as the bottle was passed around, every man was feeling gay. Oh, Larry came to back
Who is Sheila? Sheila is the one who cleans up the messes after St. Patrick's Day. She's the unappeased wife who keeps order. She is the storm at the end of winter. She is purely Newfoundland folklore. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day, but don't forget who cleans up after you. For Kicker News, this is Melissa Wong.
So here's another tune, Promise, from Search Party. What's this tune about, Mike?
This song is called Once Alive. Man, I don't know how to explain this song. It's kind of, we all kind of wrote it together, and it kind of took on a life of its own. I guess it's kind of about, it's more of a hip way than saying YOLO. Quote, no one can see the air quotes except for the cameras right there.
You're watching on Rogers.
So it's kind of about doing what you can while you can with what you have, and not really, worrying too much about the future or your past. And it's about being current and in the moment.
That's a message we could all get behind. For
I think
sure.
so.
Yeah,
I think so.
It's a positive message.
Yeah, and it's a ripper of a tune, so
Oh, well,
so
now
it's
I'm even
fun.
more excited. All right, excellent. Let's hear it.
Yes.
I've walked these city streets, I've seen the sun go down, I've sailed across the waters, and let my worries drown. I've seen the good men fall, and others left behind. Memories may fade, but my footsteps you will find. I've walked these city streets, I've seen the sun go down, I've sailed across the waters, and let my worries drown. Where the wind blows on and on, in a sky that never ends. Someday I'll find that peace of mind. I look past my reflection, seeing years upon my face. I'm faded, I'm lost, I'm feeling out of place. I ask how I got here, I wish I understood. I've lost a lot of time, it seems I'd change it if I could. I've walked these city streets, I've seen the sun go down, I've sailed across the waters, and let my worries drown. Where the wind blows on and on, in a sky that never ends. Someday I'll find that peace of mind. I'll find that peace of mind.
Seconds.
Well, Mike certainly wasn't joking because that was a ripper of a tune. Loved it. All right, and you're listening to Kicker Radio or watching us on Rogers Community Television. Coming up our second half an hour. As St. John's becomes increasingly diverse, some are struggling to adjust to the change. Project Kindness hopes to relieve some of the anxiety with their latest event, Meet an Immigrant. I headed to the Rocket Bakery on Saturday to take Hosan High up on his offer. It's early on a cold and windy Saturday morning. Despite this, the Rocket Bakery is bustling with activity. At the very back of the cafe is a stoutly built Middle Eastern man with a beard down to his chest. He sits alone at a table with a sign that reads simply, Immigrant. The immigrant in question is Hosan Hai, founder of Project Kindness.
So Project Kindness, it's basically just a community organization. With the purpose is to get regular people to be more engaged in building a better community, to people to step up, volunteer, understand that they can make a difference, and just really promoting good things within the community.
Meet an Immigrant is an event that offers Newfoundlanders an opportunity to speak with individuals from different cultures. The aim is to foster understanding and fight some of the ignorance that Hai says leads to fear.
If you cut through a lot of the vitriol and the sort of the really, what seems like hateful comments, the underlying theme is usually fear and ignorance. And I think particularly in Newfoundland, where historically we haven't had the opportunity to meet a lot of people with different backgrounds, and diversity can be scary at first, because change is scary. You hear about world events going on, and then someone who looks like someone who, did a bad thing in halfway across the world, you get afraid of what's going to change here.
Hai says humans tend to fear change instead of seeing it as something positive. He hopes that conversations like the one we're having will start to change all that.
Most people come here not with the intent of bringing their country with them, but they hold on to what they know. And then they're moving into an unknown. Imagine going to a party with complete strangers. How uncomfortable that is. Now imagine those strangers speak a different language. And then they eat food that's foreign to you. And then they act in ways that you don't really understand. And how you feel in that party. Now, you'll go in, and maybe in the first hour, you can't immediately get comfortable and act and talk and eat and dress like everyone else. But if someone were to maybe reach out to you and make you feel comfortable.
Hai was only a year old when he arrived in Canada from Pakistan. He says the struggles and anxieties his parents experienced as new Canadians are fairly typical, and that in order for immigrants and Canadians to adjust, they have to get to know each other.
People are inherently good. People don't want to be mean to one another. But when fear and ignorance, when it's left unchecked, it can lead to some bad things. And people tend to, I find, get really polarized and they dig in.
Hai believes that once people from different cultures get together, they inevitably find they have more similarities than differences. He says we all want the same thing, to be happy, healthy, and free from harm. Certainly an optimistic outlook, but in such polarizing times, a little idealism can go a long way. Stephen Miller, reporting for Kicker News. All right, and up next we have Mike Moore again with the news.
Kicker's Jason Shepard spoke with the St. John's resident whose home was targeted by a knife-wielding individual. She discusses the impact the attack has on her.
A stabbing wasn't enough. There had to be so much more violence to it, and the whole trauma definitely is going to be there for a while. That's the most difficult thing to deal with. I don't think there's any amount of medication that can help you with that. You got to find the answers in your life, and that's where people don't realize that they're so deeply disconnected.
The opioid crisis in Newfoundland and Labrador isn't going away. Kicker's Rebecca Blake spoke to two organizations, SHOP and SWAP, about the services and stigma of drug users getting help.
Newfoundland is known for many things: its beautiful landscape, wicked winds, and a growing opioid crisis. Opioids are not new to Canada. British Columbia has been suffering an opioid crisis for the past 6 years, and the future doesn't seem any brighter. It's no wonder that the BC government established safe injection sites, zones where intravenous drug users can pick up gear and be monitored by healthcare professionals while taking their drugs. Safe injection sites are slowly moving east. There are 3 in Montreal and 0 in Atlantic Canada. In November, the provincial government here proposed to track prescription drugs in order to monitor drugs in circulation, but they did not mention safe injection sites. Why is that? One word: stigma. Jared Yetman, the executive director of SWAP, says that safer injection sites are about harm reduction and not encouraging drug use.
Actually, SWAP stands for the Safe Works Access Program. It's a provincially, it's a harm reduction program for intravenous drug users that is funded by the Provincial Department of Health and Social Services. And the goal behind the harm reduction program is to decrease the spread of HIV and hepatitis C.
SWAP is a program ran by the AIDS community of Newfoundland and Labrador. It's all about harm reduction. And guess what? They come to you. That's right. SWAP uses a mobile approach to supply drug users with clean needles. Yetman says this is because many people don't have access to them.
So basically, both of these offices have the outreach vans.
I see.
And these outreach vans go out in the evening and provide needles to people who cannot otherwise get access to them, either because they're homeless or because they're afraid to come to a set site. And basically, all people have to do is call our mobile unit, and our mobile unit will deliver the supplies to wherever they're at.
SWAP isn't the only organization in town that wants to make drugs safer. SHOP is ran by St. John's Status of Women Council, and it's focused on providing resources to sex workers, including safe drug equipment. Heather Jarvis, the program coordinator of SHOP, says,
We want to make sure there are services available to everybody, especially groups of people who are often marginalized, and drug users are definitely a highly marginalized group of people.
Yepman says that education is the best way to break the chain of ignorance.
I think, basically what we really need to start doing is educating the public, starting in school. We do not have a good mental health strategy in the province, and we do not have an addiction strategy in the province. So these are a number of things that all have to happen at the same time if we're going to make an impact on helping and assisting people into rehabilitation.
I'm Rebecca Blake for Kicker News.
Judgment. No.
Caitlin Osmond's Olympic performance has the province buzzing. Kickers Arthur Green traveled to Marystown to see what locals were saying about their hometown hero.
Caitlin Osmond's team gold and individual bronze medal win at the Olympics in South Korea has captured the hearts of Canadian fans, especially in Marystown, Newfoundland and surrounding areas. Everywhere you go, people are chatting about the huge win. Nicole Gray says Osmond has inspired young people in the area to follow their dreams.
It's good knowing that someone from around here would be so good in the Olympics, because you'd never think that somebody from your hometown would actually make it there.
Her individual bronze medal win was Team Canada's 27th medal of the 2018 Olympics. A proud accomplishment for Osmond. Her Black Swan routine crowned her the 6th Canadian woman in history to win an individual figure skating medal at the Olympics. Osmond doesn't live in Marystown anymore, but she still has family here. Juanita Moulton says Osmond is a great role model.
That's the type of people that we need in our young people today, to show them that anything is possible if you work hard and you love it enough.
The road doesn't end here for Osmond. She's already back training in Edmonton for the World Figure Skating Championship in Milan, Italy next month. For Kicker News, I'm Arthur Craig Green.
Music fans have one more thing to look forward to this summer. The Out of Earshot Festival will bring together music and art for a grassroots do-it-yourself event taking place in the capital city. Kicker's Mike Moore reporting.
St. John's is getting another summer festival. Out of Earshot aims to bring together music and art over 3 days in August. Festival organizer Nicole Squires says it's about showcasing the rich pool of talent in the city. The hope is to get local artists and musicians some national recognition.
I wanted to see some growing in the diversity of the music we bring here, because it's so hard to bring bands from away here because it's super expensive, and there's only a few music festivals because it is so hard. So me and a few pals who are also majority musicians and artists decided that in lieu of Shut Island deciding to discontinue the festival, that we would kind of hop in their place.
The festival will feature both indoor and outdoor venues for concertgoers to ensure accessibility for any and all music fans.
It's going to be multi-venue for sure. We're still working on like the application process and our website and stuff, so we haven't really looked too much into venue. We are definitely going to make sure that there's going to be some stuff outside, just because it is like one of the only ways to set up an accessible show, because the venues downtown St. John's are not accessible at all, and that is something that we are really dedicated to.
And it's not just about the music. Organizers hope to inject local art into the weekend's festivities.
So we're hoping, because the festival will be happening at the end of August, which is very close to the Whole Fest Festival that Eastern Edge organizes every summer. So we're hoping that, and Peppa Chan, who's one of our directors of this festival is an amazing artist. She's so talented. So we're hoping that we will be bringing some art workshops into the mix, into the festival, to just make it a little bit more eclectic.
While Out of Earshot is still in its planning stages and fundraising is going well, local music and art events can add one more thing to their to-do list this summer. For Kicker News, I'm Mike Moore.
All right, Mike. So far, you're 2 for 2 with Search Party songs.
No, I think it's going all right.
I am very, very impressed. So I want to hear more about this EP launch tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's been a while. It's been a long time coming. The thing's been done for, oh man, I don't know, 14 months or so, like completed. We're just kind of, life kind of got in the way for a lot of us. And some of our members travel quite a bit and, have families and things like that, right? So things get in the way, and we can't rehearse and play as much as we'd like, but we do when we can. So last month we had our first show after 3 years of, recording and hanging out and being a band, but we weren't officially a band, I guess, until we played.
How did that first show feel?
It was cool. It was at the Ship, and it was, there was 50 to 60 people there, but at the Ship, 60 people is a good crowd because it's
absolutely,
it's a small venue anyways, right? So it was fun, and we had to, we played some covers with some original tunes, and it was cool. And we had our friend Dave Whitty and his band open up, and Another North that closed the night, and those guys were great. So it was more of a lot of our friends were there anyway, so it was it worked out great.
So what is your favorite song to cover?
Ooh, well, we have a couple of surprises for tomorrow night.
Ooh, hear that, people?
Which should be cool, and but I think, we do Hall & Oates, man. You make my dreams come true, and
nice.
We threw that in for the Ship show because we're like, this is just gonna be hilarious, I think. so we did it, and it ended up people were like, oh my god, I can't believe you played this.
Well, I want to be one of those people tomorrow night, so if I go there, do not disappoint.
I think I'm gonna be going to.
Excellent.
Hopefully.
You just sold her.
That would be cool. That would be deadly.
Earlier you mentioned that when I was asking you about the songs, that you guys write songs together, or you did. Do you always write your songs together, I guess, or?
Yeah, for the most part, someone will show up with a riff or a lyric or an idea, and then we'll flesh it out together, and then we'll take a day where we'll all sit down together and literally write the lyrics. So if someone doesn't come with a complete song, we'll all just sit down and be like, all right, I have this idea for this verse, and what do you have? And and then we'll just kind of mash it together. And then when we have a complete song, we'll run through it with a comb and make sure it's cohesive, and it's not like this verse is about rainbows and this one's about Satan. you know what I mean?
Polar opposites.
Right, exactly.
Even though a song about Satan and rainbows would be fun.
I think that's our next one.
I think the next album should be titled Satan's Rainbow. Actually, that sounds like a pretty. That's an album I'd buy for sure.
Yeah.
So the process of writing together is I would assume that you guys have to be all pretty tight, pretty good friends for that not to be a potentially tense process.
Well, we weren't at first. We all, myself and Adam, the lead singer, we grew up together, and our other guitar player, Berkey, he taught us guitar when we were in high school, and he was still in high school himself. And the guy's unreal. He's not trained, but he just, I don't know, that's the way his brain works. He's just incredible at the guitar. And then we met Val, and Sean, our drummer, came along later, and over the course of 3.5 years now, we've become super tight, and we get drunk together, and that makes everybody bond.
It's definitely a very good way to bond,
yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you don't need to take his word for how great the band is, because we're going to let you hear a tune from them right now called Within This Bottle by Search Party. Great tune. Never Let Me Down Yet. That's 3 for 3. Okay, so the Writers Alliance of Newfoundland and Labrador. Have you heard of it? Kicker's Emily Leiber certainly hadn't, but she discovered a welcoming community of like-minded authors reaching out for more members across the province.
Are you a young writer trying to break into the world of publishing? Or even an established writer just looking for someone to share in your pain? Well, have you heard of the Writers Alliance of Newfoundland and Labrador? No? Join the club. Despite being around for over 30 years, a lot of people, writers included, haven't even heard the name. So why is that? Vice President Kelly Power speculates.
Even though we're a small community, I hadn't myself heard about the Writers Alliance before it was mentioned to me in a completely unrelated capacity related to my work.
Yeah.
So part of it might be not knowing that there's an organization out there that's there to advocate on behalf of writers, that offers services that writers, even and maybe especially emerging writers, can benefit from.
Thankfully, it seems the Alliance is aiming to change all that. Youth Representative Ellen Curtis says they're trying to reach the younger crowds, enticing people under 17 to join for free and giving students exclusive discounts.
I think one of the things that's kept people from applying in the past to be a member is that they don't realize how accessible we are and what kinds of services we can offer to youth. There seems to be a perception among some groups that maybe there's this old guard that doesn't want to let in young writers or unestablished talent, and that's just not the case. So we would love to start getting in touch with more people, and one of the things that we're looking at doing more of is outreach to make sure we connect with these groups and find out from them as well through feedback what other kinds of services that they would like to see us offer.
On top of being rather obscure, there's this assumption that in order to join, you should be published or at least somewhat established as a writer. But Curtis says that's totally untrue.
But that is a perception that a lot of people have. And I can't speak to where that perception started, but it's certainly something that among membership committee we're looking to change very, very strongly. So it doesn't matter what stage of your writing process you're at, even if you're only, tinkering in your bedroom on a pad and paper, you're still a writer.
As for why writers in the province should consider joining, on top of arranging things like workshops and mentorships, both Curtis and Power agree that the primary benefit is the community the Alliance provides.
I think one of the biggest benefits I could see right now is the community base. A lot of people think that as a writer, you're doing your work in a solitary environment, and that's not the case. You need to be able to network with other authors, find out what's happening in the industry, and the wonderful thing about it is that it's here locally, so you're getting information that's tailored to our local scene.
I feel like if I could sell a point to anybody about the benefit of being part of an organization like that, it would be something like that. You just get that feeling for there's a much wider world of people out there doing what you're doing or aspiring to do what you do.
And if none of that convinces you, if you sign up, you'll get a sweet date planner, completely free. What more could they offer you? Apply on their website, wanl.ca, or visit them in Haymarket Square. For Kicker Radio, I'm Emily Leiber.
The Mun Seahawks basketball team has just wrapped up their season. Saturday, they face off against the St. Mary's Huskies for their final game at home. For 3 Seahawks, Daniel Gordon, David Parnsula, and Jovan Baboic, it's time to leave the nest. Kicker's Dylan Shepard has the story.
The field house at Mun filled with the sound of chairs and the squeak of sneakers. 3 Seahawks are soaking up every bit of the atmosphere. They're graduating, leaving the nest. How would you explain your time here, Alex?
Wonderful. It's just the fact that coming to a new province, everyone's friendly here. It's like they welcome me home. Like, I played here for 3 years. The seats were packed. Always, the fans were going crazy. The kids, I'm good friends with everyone here. It's just an amazing experience.
And Daniel Gordon says he'd like to play pro ball someday, but right now he's just planning on finishing his degree at another school on the mainland. Describe your time on the team.
It was just amazing, the guys, playing with these guys, it made it fun, it made it relaxing, it just made me enjoy the game, right? So, overall, amazing experience, I'll miss it, and yeah, it was just fun to hang with these guys.
And Davion Parensalo loved his time on the team, but has put the thought of the future on the back burner as he wants to focus mainly on the playoffs to come. Jovan Babovic has played for the team for 4 years and has made the playoffs 3 times out of his time with the team.
I mean, it was amazing. 4 years ago when I came here, it was a completely different story. I think this team completely turned the whole season around, and I think we made some great results in the past 4 years. We went to playoffs 3 out of 4 years, so I think that's a good accomplishment moving forward.
Jovan doesn't plan on continuing his basketball career after this year's playoffs, as he wants to start his own business someday after he finishes school. Even though they lost their final game at home against the Huskies, the Seahawks remain optimistic about their playoff games coming up shortly. This has been Dylan Shepard reporting for Kicker News.
Once again, I'm here with Search Party's Mike Moore. I know, right? Celebrity in studio today.
Who's that guy?
He's the best. You should hear him. So, tomorrow's a big night for you?
Yes. Yeah. We were due, I think. Yeah, tomorrow night at the Rock House. Doors open at 10. Matt Hornell is going to open up at 11 o'clock. And so Search Party will go on around 12 or 12:30. And to close the night, Joe Grizzly, which is Mike Sims and those boys, they're like a blues rock band. They're fantastic.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar,
yeah. So we'll have EPs there for sale. I think they're going to be like $5. Cover is $10. And so, I mean, for $20, you get, cover, a beer, and a CD.
Actually, like, I'm sold. I don't know
that's
about anyone else, but I'm sold.
I think that's a good deal.
That's excellent. So you've got a lot of people on board, and then I'm expecting a big turnout.
I hope. With the way things go these days. With Facebook, people say they're going to things, and then they're not going to things. So.
Yeah, I've noticed that. All right, well, as promised, here is another song from Search Party called Storytellin' Man.
Thanks for listening to Kicker Radio and watching on Rogers Community Television. I'm Amy Cleary.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
Oh, and I'm Mike Moore.
Of course, we got to let the celebrity
Thank you.
We're really happy you joined us, and we look forward to bringing you some shows in the future.